Hey guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to get started doing your first oil painting. This is going to be from a beginner oil painter herself, not necessarily a beginner artist anymore, but just a beginner oil painting. And we're going to start doing this really cute little cottage house, kind of inspired by a picture that I saw on Pinterest. However, I just didn't want to show it just in case any copyright issues were in play. So I'm just going to be showing you step by step what I do. So normally what I'm doing right now is, as you saw, I sketched it in with the oil paint itself. And the reason why I did that is because I just find it personally the process to be a lot more fun than doing it with graphite pencil, simply because it gives me a little bit more freedom to be more expressive versus if I do it with graphite pencil, sometimes it leads me to become very perfectionist and trying to get in the lines, create clean lines, and I don't want to necessarily, that's not the process that I enjoy doing. Now, since this painting, I have bought in new oil paints. I've bought in Winsor & Newton and Gamblin. Personally, right now, my favorite is Winsor & Newton oil paints. But these oil paints here were done with Meeden oil paints, which is a very standard, very beginner student oil paint. It does the job. Obviously, you might want to use a little bit of linseed oil when you're doing this painting, but it does do the job. However, it is very thick and not as oily and creamy and smooth to apply on the paper. So like I said, you do want to add a little bit of linseed oil to it. And you can get Winsor & Newton linseed oil. And this, by the way, is non-toxic. So this whole picture that we're doing here is a non-toxic version of oil painting. There's no solvents being used. Even when I wash my brushes, now this may later on become an issue for me, but right now it's not. I simply just use dish detergent or hand soap, antibacterial hand soap, to rinse my brushes, and I use a special cup that has a spring that helps to clean and get in between the brushes. Now, inevitably, you're gonna run into issues with the first layers as they're not as vibrant. However, I do have to say some of the paints that I've used now are very vibrant even from the very beginning, but in some cases it's not going to be as vibrant, and that's okay. When you layer on top over and over, you'll find that it is going to become more vibrant and it's going to pop. Also, and a piece of advice to do is don't add too much white to your paint. This also dulls the paint down. And maybe it's just my impatience, but I tend to just kind of use various shades of colors in between. Like say the wall right here where you see the front piece of the house, the wall front, you see that it has different shades going on. A lot of times this is because I'm a little too lazy to take my time and open the tube again and pour some oil paint out, because I don't want to pour too much, so I don't want to waste. So I tend to pour just a little bit right now as I'm starting with oil paintings. But yeah, it also inevitably causes a really cool effect where there's a lot of shade and variation into the wall versus just one straight uniform wall like you would use maybe in a gouache illustration or such. So it gives interest to it. So like I said, if you're running out of paint, and you can always mix it up a little bit and just add different variations to it to give it some interest, rather than just having to pull out the tube again and use the same color that you were using before. This is actually something that I do quite a lot often at the very end of the painting. I do like to mix in a couple colors here and there together and add just a couple details and stuff. Maybe I'll leave it for the next day and I'll leave the painting, let it dry, but I've added a couple details here and there, fixed a couple areas, couple shading areas by mixing colors that I already have on the palette, just so that I am not wasting too much oil paint. I will have to say, I would love to say though, is that oil paint goes a long way. Like it really, I find myself not having to get as much paint over again as I would with like gouache, for example. I think ultimately though, however, it's probably watercolor, the one that goes even further. In this section, I like to add a little bit of whites here and there just to give a little bit of a worn down effect to the house. Now, the thing with whites is you have to be careful because you're using the same layer and we're doing this at once, more or less. I may have used another day to finish the painting, but I think ultimately I did this painting in one sitting. I can't really truly remember right now, but yes, because the paint is wet, it will mix in with the other paint. So in order to combat that, when you're using lighter colors or you want a pop of vibrancy, just pick up a little bit extra thicker paint. That also gives it kind of a 3D layer effect, which is also very cool, especially because oil painting has that effect that you can add so much texture to it, even without using a medium to add texture to it. Just the strokes itself and using thicker paint is actually very cool when it comes to using oil paints where you don't have to use any other extra stuff. Yeah. Now I'm doing the skies in this particular area right here, but honestly, I would have loved to add a little bit of a hint of blue into like the gray skies. They're a little bit of a tan color, and I like the effect that it gives, don't get me wrong, but it's also, I just wanted it to be a little bit more, a hint of a more complementary color rather than being it monotone. But I guess kinda the outlining and darks, because if you see, most of the outlines are done in a bluish color. It's not done in like a black color or anything like that. So yeah, I guess in that way it does give it a pop of color. But yeah, I think that was probably one of those things that I might have changed, but it's not too big of a deal. I'm pretty much happy with how it came out for the first sitting of like trying to seriously do a landscape or a house type of oil painting. And for this flooring, I did use a bit of browns. I used a little bit of a tan color that is a flesh tone that came with the median oil paint set, and I also used a little bit of yellow and stuff. So I just went back and forth and gave it a little bit of a variety. And of course here I am adding some details, and I did add a little bit of that swirling thing that you see. I'm not sure if it reads well, but the swirling things that you see around the house, it's actually supposed to be like vines. I wasn't too professional and skillful in doing it properly, but I think overall it kind of gives the effect. It looks like there's a shadow of vines, but there's no vines there. I think that's kind of the effect that it's giving me, but hey, it's okay. And I also wanted to add, here I am doing a little bit of extra details. I'm adding a couple of lighter pieces to like the stairs in the doorway. I'm adding a little bit of darker, more vibrant pieces of orange on the rooftop, and adding a couple whites as well on the rooftop, just to simulate like shingles on the roof. But I'm not making it too literal. I'm not trying to be too perfectionist when it comes to that stuff. I just like to give the impression that it's there without actually having to draw every single shingle at a time. Okay, so now sometimes you'll find me doing a little bit of color touch-ups here and there, because honestly right here I'm using a canvas paper. When you lift that paper up and you place it over by the sun or over by light, you're gonna see streaks coming through, and that is very, very unattractive in these type of paintings. So what you want to do with that is you can just go over it, make sure that you cover fully the canvas, but as well you can add an additional type of caution by just applying like a wood board or maybe a cardboard, something to that effect. Glue it to that canvas paper in the back, and then you're all set, so the light is not coming through and showing those lighter patches. Also, by the way, comment down below if you enjoy drawing buildings. I find I like landscapes a lot, and I like just overall impressions of buildings, but I don't necessarily like drawing buildings at like to a T. I don't like drawing square areas. For me, that's just not my preference, especially like with interiors, with a window, with doors, everything that has to have like these square, perfect symmetrical or very perfect to perspective type of art. I really find it very tedious to draw. So let me know down below if you feel the same way, if you feel like you like to leave things a little bit more whimsical and just kind of like rounded and just not as precise and as perfect to proportions as other people would. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of paintings out there that I love that adhere properly to, perspectives and, proportions and sharp lines and stuff like that. It's just not my personal style to draw. I just don't enjoy drawing it. And inevitably, as I always say in my videos, you want to enjoy the process. You can't just sell something or try to make a business out of something that people love but you hate to make, because otherwise, what's the point? Might as well just do something that's a lot easier. And you may have seen I did like little slight glimmers of stars here and there. I think that's like the YouTube artist in me that likes to do that. Every like video I used to watch, they would do the little star things, like you see like around the front and stuff. Yeah, but anyways, guys, that's my painting. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing and liking this video, and put your comments down below on how you feel about the whole process. All right, guys, you have a wonderful day and enjoy painting. Bye. I said it a little bit too soon, so now I have to stick my byes very, very long. Bye. Yeah, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but yeah, you get the drift. See you guys. Bye.